The average age of menopause is 51, though the transition can happen anytime between a woman's 30s and 50s. Now, there are many stigmas when it comes to menopause. A lot of people joking around saying, hey, it's just the hot flashes, man. It's fine. I'll be fine. The truth is, for 1 in 4 women, symptoms can be so severe, it can actually affect their daily lives. There are approximately 10 million women in South Africa at present who fall within the age group for menopause. That's 1 in 3 women in South Africa, of course. We need to have a conversation about it. Dr. Adele, thanks for availing yourself for this chat.
Absolute pleasure. How can I help?
Thank you. Now, in my circle, as you may know, well, I'm 39 years old, so a lot of my friends from school are turning 40, etc. So you spend time with them, and there's always that, it's menopause. Oh, I got a hot flash, it's menopause. Oh, I don't do this. Oh, I'm just snacking all the time. It's the menopause, man. Leave me alone. I don't list to go to gym. It's the menopause. So a lot of people are just using it in a conversation anecdotally. However, we need to understand it. And let's start off with that understanding. What is menopause, doctor?
Exactly. Okay. So I'm just recently gone through menopause myself in the last 6 years or so. So I have a very intimate relationship with it as well. So
All right.
A lot of personal experience. So basically menopause is just the 12 months where there is no period because the ovaries have basically shriveled up like prunes. So there is no menstruation for 12 months. That's menopause. Anything before that is perimenopause, and anything after that is called postmenopause.
Okay, understood.
So
I'm hearing when you say shrivel up, those ovaries, there's a lot of hormonal interactions that happen when they are in existence. And in their absence, I can only imagine that there are now hormonal fluctuations that cause complications.
Absolutely. I always say it's like diving off a cliff without a parachute. So, you just suddenly, I always joke with a lot of my patients as well to say, if men's testicles had to fall off at 50, there would be so many different options and treatments and herbals and supplements and things to support that, to support men. But over the years, I think it's just been sort of put aside, almost like with a stigma. It's not talked about very often. And I just literally did a talk on Saturday to a bunch of ladies, and half of them didn't even know some of the basics about what their hormones do and where they go and where they're produced and, how stress is combined, etc. So it really is there's a lot of lack of education and training and discussion around menopause. So it's a huge transition for women, but
Yes.
I always like to call it an adventure. So let's try and look at it as an adventure and a change and a shift rather than the end of everything.
And I love that sentiment. I love it. It makes it a bit more positive so we can deliver key information between you and I. And obviously people manifest it in different ways. But let's just talk about perimenopause. A lot of people who feel like they have the onset, they don't exactly know the symptoms. I think the most popular symptoms, hot flashes. Oh, that's it. That's the problem that's happening at the moment. Or, I just feel like extra crampy at certain times of the month. Now, let's talk about that. How do you know when it's actually an onset versus something to look at with your doctor or versus maybe a bad period? How do you know when you are in it, when you're locked in? Are there any telltale signs?
Okay, so that perimenopause can be up to 15 years for some women. So if we say the average age is 51 for menopause, where you go into those 12 months of no menstruating,
yes,
we've got 10 to 15 years before that where we start getting a little bit of irregular periods, or we get starting getting a few night sweats, some odd weight gain, which is not linked to eating too many rotis and donuts and stuff like that. We could also get daily hot flashes or flushes. In South Africa, we call them flushes. And then sometimes a bit of loss of libido. There can be dry skin. There can be some cognitive sort of changes as well. So if it's starting to impede on your normal daily life and your quality of life, and you're noticing things that are maybe a little bit more extreme than when they were, if you were in your 20s, for example, then it might be time to speak to somebody to support you through that. Because the sooner we can support, the better that transition. So I say, let's do a foofy slide off the cliff rather than a bungee jump without a without a bungee.
Yes, without one of those cords. And I completely understand in this regard. But there is a large stigma around menopause that unfortunately it's picked up. And in your experience, what are women mostly afraid about when they feel like the onset's coming? What have you noticed? What are the big misconceptions in that time?
The biggest misconceptions is I can't do anything about it, and if I go on hormones, I'm going to get cancer. That's usually the first thing
Ooh,
that people are
yes.
worried about. Yeah, and my sex life is over. That is not true. I can guarantee that. And there are things like, well, I'm just going to have sore joints and never going to have sex ever again, and I'm going to have hot flushes for the rest of my life, or I'm going to have a cycle that's going all over the
Yes.
periods. They
Just a moment, doctor. I'm
are,
just if you don't mind repeating two sentences prior, if you don't mind, I just dropped you over there. Are you there?
yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Okay,
Yes. So just if you don't mind, just going back two sentences.
no,
Sorry, man, your signal dropped a little bit. Okay.
okay, if I can remember what I said. Okay,
Oh,
so
is that one of the
this is what
symptoms? I didn't even.
that's one of the symptoms.
Doctor. Oh, you see, this is why we do things live. So we actually get a. So is the memory loss a real thing in menopause?
Memory loss is definitely a real thing. Cognitive function, estrogen has a huge impact on your brain.
Yes.
So does progesterone and testosterone to a certain extent. So when you don't have a lot of those, there's definitely some decline. Okay.
I completely understand. Okay, we're
It's
talking about
still
stigmas.
it's treatable.
We're talking
Okay,
about the
so the
stigmas, yeah.
stigmas. Okay, so first of all, I think a lot of women come to me saying, I don't want to go on hormones because that's the only thing I know that can help with menopause or postmenopause,
Yeah.
or to get these things back into balance and all these symptoms I'm experiencing. But the scare or the lack of education about potentially getting cancers, etc., that's usually a big scare for a lot of women. Or it's sort of a myth around it or a stigma around it.
Yeah.
Also, that a stigma around it being kind of, it's like the end of you being a woman kind of thing, as well as the ability to have sex and your libido is going to go out
Yeah.
the door. There's a lot of stigma around it in the workplace. It's like, okay, well, the men want the aircon on, 25, and the women want the aircon on 19, so or it's joked about a lot, but it's not really taken very seriously. So I think a lot of women feel they can't talk about it, otherwise they're just going to be the butt end of a joke.
Well, that's exactly why we are talking about it. Is that
Mm.
I think in that scenario, not too long ago, we had a caller on who was making that joke.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do this. And I was very verbal about it. And I'm glad that we found you because we can talk about the best ways to support somebody who's going through it. The best ways for on a corporate level, on a friend level, on a relationship level. What are the things that we should be doing as supporters to mitigate some of what is clearly very, very debilitating feelings and hormonal fluctuations for that
Fluctuation,
woman?
yeah. Yeah. So every woman experiences these changes very differently. So there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And as a naturopath, I treat very individually personalized. And that's why, for me, I like to have some kind of understanding of the basics of your genetics. What are you able to do genetically and not? So that we can treat that woman as an individual person rather than a one size fits all. So if there are problems with, hot flushes and things like that, that's very much estrogen related. So
Yes.
ideally you need to, if there's a deficiency in vitamin C, for example, we would give a patient a supplement in vitamin C. So if there's a deficiency in estrogen, we should actually be giving a little bit of natural, or as natural as possible, estrogen. So there's combinations of options for different women based on what their symptoms are. But in general, we're looking at more deeper clinical things that we've got to take into account, like bone health and mental health and just brain capacity, brain functioning. Cardiovascular health is a big one as well. So not just those flushes and the skin dryness and the libido stuff, which is important too.
Yeah.
But we've got to look at the deeper, more clinical potential issues going forward so that we can be as preventative down the line, so that this woman at 75 doesn't end up with osteoporosis and cognitive decline or brain loss of cognitive function, etc. So we really wanted to support each woman individually, number one, and making sure that we are supporting in a way and educating people around the woman who are dealing with, like children dealing with their moms and having some idea of what their mother is going through.
That's it.
Or friends or husbands. Husbands are my husband's a complete exception because he's just like a gem. He understands it all. He reads up a little bit more. He has a lot more awareness of it, whereas other men just have no idea at all. It's like, oh, my wife's just changed personality and she's either too hot or cold and doesn't want sex. That's all they kind of think about. So we really have to get a good understanding. And, I do workshops and all that as well for women, but I do for couples and for men as well, so that we've got some understanding of the basics, so that you know what you're talking about before you start just throwing out a little joke here and there, which might be fine at times. But if you are getting a woman in a mid flush, to try and throw a joke at her, is just really you're about to be strangled. Basically.
Insensitive, yes, and not well placed. I think, and I know this is not one size fits all, but if I were to push you for a couple of things that you can help somebody mitigate some of the circumstances around menopause that are more the negative things. Let's just say when it comes to diet, let's just say when it comes to being someone in a relationship with somebody going through it and the moods are completely swayed. It's all over the place. And that's what you mentioned now. Oh, my wife is completely changing. It's over. What's going on? I think that's the type of things that I'm looking for to empower somebody who is with somebody or a corporate who's looking to look after the staff members in a way where they can say, I need 19 on the aircon without being judged. So what are some of those little things we can do to support those individuals that are going through menopause?
Okay, so just having an understanding that because of the hormonal drop is so huge, it's kind of like I said, PMS on steroids, because with PMS, having an understanding before you start menstruating, a woman's estrogen and progesterone levels drop quite a lot. And the faster those drop and the more sensitive a woman is to that drop, the more her PMS symptoms are going to be. The same applies to menopause. These have dropped, and they've dropped permanently. There's no coming back again unless we actually add in some extra hormones, whether they're bioidentical or whether they're synthetic.
Yes.
Whatever your gynecologist and your GP and your naturopath, whoever else you're working with, has got a better understanding of you and your ability to process those hormones, etc., will have the best treatment options for you. But the people around you also need to be aware of things like temperature changes. So you're impacting not only your thyroid, because thyroid has also got various hormone receptors on it as well. We are needing ability to fluctuate through different temperatures in a happy medium, in a happy way. So maybe setting the aircon in a corporate environment to 19 is not necessarily ideal, but having a strategically placed fan somewhere might be useful for a woman who's going through the menopause.
Yes.
So, or postmenopausal and perimenopausal. So we don't quite know where she will be in that cycle, but supporting her, having an understanding that she might need to just, have a fan or have some kind of cooling device available for her, but also that she needs some extra support, extra love, a little bit of extra care, because she's in a fluctuating position. So perimenopause is very fluctuating all over the place, whereas postmenopause you get into a bit more of a set routine, but with very low hormones. So if you have an understanding of where that woman is within her process of her adventure or her journey of menopause, then we can treat or support in a lot better way.
I would love to answer everybody's question. However, there have been some questions that have overlapped one another, which would seem like more of a popular question to ask you. So if you don't mind me covering a couple of these, and if there's any answers that would require more tests, more knowledge of the individual, please say so and we'll move on to the next question. I want to be as respectful as possible of your capacity as a doctor being this far away and on the line. But
Yeah, I
the,
mean, I'd love to give a lot of advice. It's just so tricky because everybody's
yes,
unique and individual, and we've got to be cognizant of the fact that we can't do medical advice over the phone.
absolutely. And that's why let's just talk about what I've got is a lot of people who are in their mid 40s. So if I look at the range of the questions I received, I'm talking about people anywhere between, I'm going to say 44 and 49. And they
Mm-hmm.
are saying that the hot flashes are real, but their libido is extremely high. Is this part of
Yeah.
perimenopause, or are they into menopause? Like, what are they experiencing at the moment? Because I got about 4 messages of that very similar sort.
Okay, let me just clarify again because I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding about the
Yes.
menopause. Okay, so perimenopause can be any time 10 or 15 years before those 12 months where you stop menstruating. So I think menopause is just when you stop menstruating and you haven't menstruated for 12 months and you don't menstruate ever again after that. That's menopause.
All right.
So before that is perimenopause. So all of these ladies, if they're still menstruating, then they're in perimenopause. At what stage they're going to hit menopause, we don't know, but there is a test we could do. You know, there are some tests. We look at estrogen, progesterone. I always look at testosterone as well. And that extra testosterone could also be pushing up the libido for that one listener that
Yes.
called in. Yeah. So
Or
that if they, yeah, so the body, and it would be nice to actually do some kind of like have an image of some kind because it's important to see the pathways of those hormones, how they interconnect to stress hormones as well as estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And our testosterone can actually make estrogen as well. So remember, it's a two-way street. So some of these hormones are going, making more of certain hormones
yeah.
or additional hormones or other part hormones, if we can call them that, and others are overproducing something. So different women will be producing different things. So that woman with the high libido,
Yes.
it's normal if her testosterone is a little bit higher.
Okay.
So it's not a train smash. I don't know why her husband's complaining.
Oh no, no. There
Actually,
was a lot of people saying their husbands are complaining.
yeah. Why
So
is your
so
husband complaining if you've got a better libido?
well, this is why we. By the way,
Yeah.
we need to do a part 2 on, because there's that consideration of menopause that has come up
We
as
have to
well.
do the
We
menopause
have
thing.
to
Yes.
for
Yeah.
balance, please. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up,
Absolutely.
I'm getting a lot of messages about a certain itchy syndrome. A lot of people are itching. Now I'm getting a 52-year-old at messaging saying that their ears are incredibly itchy. And then even
Yep.
somebody as young as 31 years old with itchy skin as well. Now, is itching
Yeah.
one of the manifestations of peri or menopause?
It can. We've obviously got to be sensible and just check out if there's anything beyond menopausal kind of stuff or hormonal. So we've got to make sure we rule out some of the basics first. If their liver's overproducing bilirubin, for example, they
Yeah.
could get very itchy from that. So we've got to rule out the basics. But if we're looking hormonally, a fall in estrogen reduces that barrier function and the cerumen, which is the sort of oily bit of the skin, and you end up feeling sort of itchy but clean kind of thing. So it's that drier skin. It can be a little bit more itchy. There could be some liver related stuff, and then obviously if there's some flushing, so heat changes can also then dry out the skin a little bit more. But we've
Ah.
also got a lot of histamine at the moment. Our pollen counts through the roof in Cape Town, so there could be a histamine component, especially if you've got some atopic kind of things, if you're prone to sort of eczema or urticaria rashes and things like that as well. So there are a variety of things that could relate to that. But if she is in perimenopause or in
Yes.
postmenopause, it could be a connection with the estrogen. So she's not, the ear weirdness and the dry skin stuff is quite common.
All right. I'm getting a few messages about ladies who have the Mirena, and
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about not getting the period. The 39-year-olds. Got another one's 41 years old as well. Still getting hot flushes, and they'd like to know, obviously, with the Mirena, what is their big indicator to see if they're in full-blown menopause or not? That is a bit of a concern. Will that require further testing?
Yeah, we would definitely require some further testing. If you're already on either an oral contraceptive or an IUD of some kind or anything, so the Mirena is predominantly progesterone. So the
Yes.
progesterone is going to be at a nice level with a person with a Mirena, but her estrogen levels will be low. So if you're not testing estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and there's an interesting little sort of a add-on here, there's another component. It's called sex hormone binding globulin, which actually you can test total estrogen, total testosterone, but if you've got a very high sex hormone binding globulin, it's going to bind those hormones, which means they're not going to really be doing their job that well. So you could have high totals, but your active forms are very low. So I would, for example, test something like it's anti-Malarian hormone, but not like malaria like the mosquito.
Yes.
It's like a German MU with the umlaut, anti-Malarian hormone. So that could give us an idea of viability left in those eggs. So are they all raisins and prunes, or are there some still that are functioning and able to produce a little bit of hormone still? So that's an option we can test.
And then finally, in terms of the popular questions, the FAQs that have come in, it's around the cognitive decline. It's about the insecurity around that within the workspaces and within the mental health of the cognitive decline, the feeling of being completely out of control and forgetful, as we discovered.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important for us to just comfort a lot of these ladies who are asking these questions, because a lot of them are concerned about their work scenarios, with the forgetfulness in particular, if they have those types of work situations where you need to have your cognitive function on top form. Are there things that they can do to help out, number one, their cognitive function, and then on a mental health level, what would you recommend for people who are really bogged down by the onset of menopause and perimenopause?
Okay, so let's break this down.
Let's do it.
If they're at work and they're super stressed, having an understanding that your sex hormones, let's call it the steroid hormone pathway.
Yes.
The full name is glucocorticosteroid, so there's a sugar component there. But if you're super stressed, we've got cortisol and we've got DHEA, which are our adrenal stress hormones, but they're all intertwined with our progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen production. So I want to really reiterate that if you're under a lot of stress, whether you're menopausal, postmenopausal, perimenopausal, you are going to have some cognitive impact, because cortisol itself can actually have some neurotoxicity in the brain. So it actually helps you to forget stuff, which is not what we want. So we don't want an excess cortisol. So we've got to slow that cortisol down if it's an adrenal thing. So we've got to really look at stress management and focusing on a little bit of exercise to support and lower those cortisol levels. And there's also a very strong cholesterol component here as well. It's one of the base molecules too. So we want to support women as optimally as possible, but it's the same kind of cycle for men too. We really need to support that stress production in the adrenals so that it doesn't sort of suck away all the ingredients for the other hormones to work properly. If that I'm simplifying this. Really
I know we're on radio, and I understand, and I'm sure that if anybody wants to contact you, I know Pietrus said that you'll make sure the connections are happening. But I think just in terms of that's important. Stress management. I know it seems very vague that what you said, but and easier said than done. But I think it is very much a focus point, and you need to treat it as importantly as you would anything else in your life that's around your health and wellness, which is important.
Yeah, I think it's sort of poo-pooed, it's not that people don't realize the biochemistry around it and how is it impacting on so many different factors within your body.
Yeah.
So from a mental health perspective, it is important for women to have an understanding of this whole stress component, but also to have a range of, tools in the toolbox to help you process some of the stress. So mindfulness, breath work, we've got all those, what some people would say woo-woo stuff, but it actually has got strong evidence-based science behind it and research behind it too.
Yeah.
But, there are supportive nutraceuticals. The mushrooms, I love the mushrooms. Something like lion's mane could be very beneficial for
I love that too.
Cognitive support. Yeah. If a woman is slightly more on an ADD, ADHD, and we find that menopause can kind of trigger or enhance an ADD or ADHD woman who's not known that she was ADD or ADHD for her whole life, but it's kind of gets triggered with the lack of all these hormones. So she ends up with more, like I did, more ADD or more ADHD, and procrastination and hyperfocus and all of those things as well. So we've got to support maybe with a herbal like Bacopa monieri from a concentration perspective. There's omegas, there are vitamin Bs that are essential. There's so many nutrients that we can
Yeah.
support an individual with, but obviously I do it in a very individualized way. There's no one size fits all. I'm not a cookie cutter kind of doctor.
I know you're not. Trust me, you've proven that today in this hour of conversation around menopause, and I can only thank you for your time today. I think just in closing, naturally, you are going to have a lot of people who want to reach out to you, and in the event they can't connect to somebody like you, where should a lady go if she wants to get a panel done on what's happening on a hormonal level in their body, just to make sure that they know what is actually happening? Is that something that someone can go get done and tested so
Absolutely.
that you understand it? And also, I think, I know there are endocrinologists, and that's a specialist thing. So what happens is you have to go to your GP, and then your GP has to recommend the endocrinologist. I hope that there's a quicker pathway to get the answers that a woman needs. Is there such a thing?
Yes, so obviously I'm a sort of a GP of natural medicine, so I kind of look at a range of different disorders, but my primary focus at the moment has been on these hormones and menopause, because I'm going through it myself. So it's something I want to know more about too, so that I can impart that to other women. But the idea is that we've got many medical doctors your GP, for example, might not be interested or know anything about hormones, but they are integrative medical doctors. So there's a wonderful group called SASM, South African Society of Integrative Medicine. They can go online and they can see a whole range of different practitioners, either medical or natural medicine as well. There are homeopaths, there are naturopaths that are working with this. They might not necessarily be able to write the script for certain things, but they know about it. They can go into detail with you. So if you want a detailed, comprehensive overview of what's going on in your life. My initial consult is about 3 hours. I go through stress, I go through diet, I go through sleep, I go through your symptoms, I go through your history, I go through your family life, I go through so many different things, because it's all pieces in your puzzle of you as an individual person. So if you want more time and dedication from a naturopath or a homeopath, they're going to give you a decent grounding and really investigate in your genetics and all that. But the integrative medical doctors are also amazing at this as well. They're learning some of the holistic with a W, not with the H, so the whole, and working with comprehensive healthcare. So there are a lot of wonderful integrative medical doctors out there that are incorporating all of this holistic way of looking at an individual patient. So it's so important to find somebody. If you want a female, then look for a female. If you're happy to go see a male doctor who specializes in hormones, we've got one out in the northern suburbs. I'm not allowed to mention his name, but he's great at the hormones too. There are many doctors that are what we call integrative. They are looking at a more functional overview of the body, rather than just focusing on this is the symptom and this is the medication for it.
Love this. So could you repeat that platform where you can find integrative doctors near you? What is that called?
It's called SASM, South African Society of Integrative Medicine. SASM.
Got it. SASM is the one. Dr. Adele, I really want to chat to you again. I would love for us to continue this conversation. It's a very...
By all means, it's so much more to still cover.
I know. We only could scrape the surface today, but thus is the nature of music radio. Even though we did a lot of talking, but we did a lot of good talking today, and I hope that we've provided people with a great platform for information provision and a lot of comfort around understanding that you've provided, Doctor. So thank you very much for your time today, and we'll chat to you soon.
The Flash Drive with Carl Wastie. KFM 94.5.